Health claims on food labels and labeling regulations. History of food labels. The first proposed idea for food labels came in 1941 for dietary use and daily vitamin requirements. Then, in 1966, final rules for special dietary use for food labels were created for the use in weight control. This was in order to mainly regulate sodium intake. The White House Conference wanted the FDA to come up with a system in 1969. This was established the nutritional quantities of food. It took until 2003 to have an updated nutritional label similar to the ones we see today to finally be established. There has been many proposals since the final ruling to add the nutrition label all of the facts stated for consumers. How food labels relate to public health. A food label is used to show the ingredients and recommended amount for daily intake. It helps improve the health of consumers if they follow the recommended daily dosage. Consumers can choose whether or not they want to purchase the food depending on the facts listed in the nutrition label. Food labels also help with recalling food when they may be contaminated. The food labels allow for a way to tracking the products, making it easier to quickly recall it from the market and take the products off the shelves. Healthy labels mean healthy consumers. The question rises on whether or not the food labels change to appear healthy and clearer than they have to have in the past. Will consumers make healthier food choices? Food labels are meant to help consumers understand the nutritional value of the product and base that on whether or not they chose to purchase the item. Changing the label has been up for debate for many years because there were theory that the clearer label would result in healthier people. A study was done by a Dutch university canteen. Participants were told to choose 12 items that were all produced differently and contained food labels. A study showed that very few paid attention to the food label because they felt it was too confusing. Instead, they were more focused on the look of the product. Food labeling stalemate. The public wanted more transparent food labels. Legislative and legal backing has not been as convincing. The FDA has extended the time frame needed to complete the improvement of food labels for only small companies. To be qualified as big company sales must be equal to 10 million, which means they have until January 2020. Reactions to this have been mixed because larger companies feel as though that they should have as much time as the smaller companies. Controversy over food labeling. John Tureen works for the Food Service Consultants Society International, FCSI, and has been trying to develop initiatives around food sustainability. There was a survey done, and 84% of adults feel that nutrition labels in grocery stores should be a government requirement, and 64% feel that restaurants should follow similar rules. The improvement of the food labels is a public health concern because the obesity-related issue was estimated to total $344 billion in 2018. That's over 20% of the U.S. healthcare spending. More information on food labels needed for consumers. Consumers feel as though they should have more of an option on what is being put onto food labels. Most feel as though, due to the obesity rates that the U.S. food labels need to be improved and that turned into, might help change the health of many Americans. Changing the food labels can mean healthier options for consumers. Consumers feel as though their food should have science-based nutritional information on them. Restaurants providing more food labels allow for healthier choices to eat. Food industry side to lack of transparency. Industries feel that food labeling confuses consumers. They feel as though there is a lack of science and support to this argument made by consumers. Many industries try to divert attention away from the scientific evidence by giving unsupported claims. An example explained states how added sugar line will take away consumers' attention to the amount of calories in a product, resulting in people no longer buying the product. Consumer versus industry, consumer side. Many front of package food labels that make health claims about a specific nutrition are placed on products that contain added sugars above the daily recommended amount. The American Medical Association has encouraged food manufacturers to make packaging more obvious with the common food allergens that many consumers have. Consumers have difficulty with food labeling because it is not always concise as to what is in the product and that they want to purchase. The amount of added sugar contained in food is rarely labeled because it can increase type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Consumers have the right to know exactly what is in their products of their own health and feel as though that many products are lacking that extremely. Consumer versus industry side. Industries are trying to produce cleaner labels. Although there is a complaint that labels are still not clear to consumers, industries are worried that contagious change in labels will cause confusion among consumers or customers. There can be decrease in purchases as a result of the confusion, which means less money for industries and food manufacturers. Industries base on their production through consumer reports. In 2015, it was found that 35% of individuals did not purchase products due to the new food labeling that was produced. Economic concerns. July 2016, the U.S. Congress passed the state bill that requires the U.S. Department of Agriculture to establish a national disclosure for GE foods called the PL 114-216. This is to compromise for the sticker labeling law that is used to oppose the mandatory labeling law altogether. There is economic concern behind the PL 114-216. This economic consequence are responses to the label change. The consumer marketer, and producer responses along the estimated costs are called for the economic concerns. There is a concern for a decrease in sales. With more information given to consumers, they may choose to no longer purchase the products, affecting the marketers' and producers' revenue, and ultimately hurting the economic status of the U.S. food industry. Cultural concerns. Many Western consumers' societies have shown that the choices of individuals make have to do with the importance of their food practices. There is a cultural variety in how food is chosen to be eaten for individual groups. Industry representatives suggest regulation on food labeling can cause restriction on trades and confuse their consumers. Meanwhile, many consumers feel that labels protect them from making purchases that might go against their culture. Clinical concerns on food labels. In the U.S., undeclared allergens are the number for the food that can be recalled. Food labels not being accurate or completely truthful causes issues for people with allergens. These issues come from companies changing the way they manufacture their food when occasional mistakes are made. Many food products have to have been recalled through clinical trials because of their reactions consumers have for the food they ate. The Food Allergy Research and Education FAIR receives the messages from concerned members of the community about the products and their labels. They distribute allergy alerts about recalls and label changes. Political aspects of food labels. The FDA's decision to add the line of added sugars to the food labels on products was a political choice. The big food lobbying group felt that consumers were being misinformed about how much sugar was being added to their food. Legislators took time to finally get this improvement to food label approved because of the many food companies it felt unnecessary. The FDA felt that by adding this to the label, consumers will make it more informed choices about what they are choosing to eat. Factors shaping food labels. Consumers ultimately want to choose the best products for them, and the concerns that come culturally, political, and clinical aspects that shape the viewpoints for them. Clinical concerns show evidence of past reactions from misleading labeling and how untruthful product of foods can harm them, especially those who suffer from allergies. Those who follow politics can strictly hear the reports of the trouble it took to GT to bill passed for added sugar, which want the law to be passed. Culturally, consumers may follow the strict traditions and ultimately stop purchasing food that they once did if they come to find out the labels have been misleading. Ethical considerations. There are many important labels and ingredients to look for as a consumer who chose to shop ethically might look for. The concerns for food labels to be accurate can affect many types of diets. There are several ethical dietary ways of which that follow certain practices. These include the following: palm oil free, vegan, organic and range free, MSC fish. Ways ethics are being followed. Palm oil free. Many consumers are becoming aware of the dangers of palm oil and are trying to avoid it in their diets. Over 50% of the products sold in supermarkets contain this oil, making purchasing difficult. Meanwhile, in Europe, products sold most clearly state in the ingredients whether palm oil is used, and in the U.S. Secretary, this is not necessary. For vegan consumers, which may be avoiding all animal products, the first step is to look for the Vegan Society trademark. Products that do not contain this label state sustainable for vegans. The final step to protect from purchasing non-vegan products is to look at the ingredients. The new law that has been passed states it is necessary to bold all allergens, which include non-vegan items. Continued ways ethics are followed. Organic and free-range products include the products in which animals have not been given any hormones, antibiotics, and GMOs. Labels for these products may vary for each animal. For chickens, half of their lives must be spent outside, and pigs must remain in the fields outside until they are slaughtered. To ensure free-range standards, it is best to look for the organic label. Also, it is important to look for the Soil Association logo. For MCS fish, there are 3 factors to determine this. It was established in 1997 for eco-labeling and sustainable seafood. First factor, in sustainable fish stocks. Second factor is effective management. Third factor is respecting international laws and observing rights of indigenous fishers. The MSC provides a track and fishery database label so that their products are completely transparent. Constraints on ethical food labeling. Constraints on this issue is problems of mislabeling and non-transparent products. Organic products and other foods that follow certain consumers' ways of eating tend to be difficult to consistently clear labels due to many standards the products must follow. Labeling ethically raised concern in a way that products might be produced as they are stated or an ingredient that may be forgotten to be added to the labels. Also, if labels and logos are not clearly stated, consumers may purchase the item and it may not follow their proper eating choices. This is an example of a food label. There's a side-by-side comparison from the original label and the new label. As you can see, the new label is more legible for our consumers, and the important information that we feel for our consumers is highlighted and bolded so they're able to see the calorie intake and the nutritional facts and be able to read them more clearly. We believe that this is beneficial because it will help them with their dietary needs. Conclusions. The health claims on food labeling raises many concerns politically and personally. Consumers have been misled for many years about the products that they have trusted and purchased. The new law passed in order to show the added sugars to the product was necessary because it can cause change to the whole outlook of the product. Ultimately, consumers have the right to know what they are purchasing and that they may not always be clear for them. Food labels tend to be confusing when many ingredients, especially ones not familiar to most, are listed. It can be frustrating for individuals to follow the health lifestyle when the food that they are purchasing and eating is not always clear. Clear labeling is the most important part in marketing because it is one of the first parts that consumers observe before eating an item. It is important for all manufacturers to follow the same set of rules, and restaurants to implement food labeling, as well as consumers are not misled in what they choose to eat. This is my works cited page. And then this is another works cited page continued.